So many writers online attract either the wrong type of artist or no artist at all to help them make their comics. And in this video, I'll show you not only how to make your comic irresistible, but how to actually choose the right artist for the job. Oh, and I'm giving away a free template to help you on your way, so have a look in the description. If you've never tried to get an artist to help you draw your comic for you, there are usually 3 scenarios that happen. 1, you write an advert and you get nothing but grief from artists. How much does it pay? What's the comic about? Where is the script? You're the worst. I hate you. 2, you write an advert and you get nothing but really low skilled artists who don't really know what they're doing. I can draw your whole comic for $2 per page. I'm really good. Look at my portfolio. Or 3, you get scammed. Yeah, I'll definitely draw your comic and I want 100% of the money up front and I'll definitely draw it. Definitely. If you're worried about that last one, then don't, because it's actually quite rare, and I'll show you how to spot a scammer at the end of this video anyway. If you're new, I'm John, a comic creator from the UK, and I make videos about comic creation every week. Right, the first thing we're going to want to do is establish your budget. If you're not sure how to do that, then watch this video after you've watched this one. For now though, I'm going to invent a book that I need the art for, but you can apply this logic to your book. I need 20 pages doing, and I'm willing to pay $100 per page for the line work. So that's going to cost me $2,000. That's pretty easy to figure out, and it shouldn't actually take you too long. It's essentially your total page count multiplied by the page rate. So that's the money sorted. Next, I need to show them my script. I'd say 2 pages is plenty, and it can be any 2 pages that you choose. The point of this is to show the artist that you know how to write for comics, and that when they work with you, they'll work from a script that is easy to interpret and create art for. And honestly, that's all you need to write a pretty decent advert for your comic. Something like this would be totally fine. Hello, I'm looking for an artist to do the line work for my comic. It's 20 pages long and I'm looking to pay around $80 to $100 per page. Please see a sample of my script as a reference. DM me or email me at this address and we can discuss further. That's a clear message and the artist can make an informed choice of whether they want to work with you or not. But here are some other things that you can do to make your post much more attractive to potential prospects. You can add a very brief summary of your story. Comic artists are storytellers, and an intriguing story concept might be enough to prick their ears and get their attention. You can also request a sample page from the artist based on a brief that you set. Why a brief that you set? Because there are some people out there who steal other people's work and pass it off as their own, otherwise known as AI artists. So if you set the brief, they're going to have a much harder time scamming you with their pre-prepared stolen work. And if you're worried about AI artists stealing work and passing it off as their own, then you don't really need to worry, because they don't shut up about the fact that they're AI artists, so they're really easy to spot and dismiss. But seriously, people do legitimately take other people's art and pretend it's theirs. Then they take the money and run without actually producing anything. But like I said, that's actually quite rare, and if you ask the artist to submit a sample page, then the scammers are probably not going to bother, because that means doing actual work, which they don't want to do. Now, to be honest, I've gone back and forth on this suggestion. I know that some artists might balk at the idea of having to do a sample page, and once upon a time that might have put me off as well. So consider the sample page request an optional thing to do. Try it with one and then try it without one and see what works. There are other ways that we can suss out art thieves anyway, so it's not essential. Now, I know a lot of writers don't like to advertise the amount that they're willing to pay for an artist, and I understand why. If you state up front that you're willing to pay $80 to $100 per page, then you're kind of setting the bar for the cost. What if someone would have done the work for $50 a page? You're essentially paying at least $30 to $50 more per page than you would have had to if you hadn't bothered saying that that's how much you pay. But that's not really how it works. At least not if you want the best kind of artists. I'm sure we've all job hunted before. Don't you find it infuriating when they don't actually say how much the salary is going to be? A lot of artists will see your advert and they'll see how they don't know how much the job is going to pay them, and they just won't bother and they'll move on. But if you display the rate that you're willing to pay, you take away that barrier between you and the artist. Now, all of that should be enough to get a few bites from hungry artists. But there's still more that you can do to really get their blood flowing. And that thing is references. If you show that you've got references for your comic, then the artist will love you. I don't understand why writers don't do this more. Even if you want the artist to do the majority of the heavy lifting in terms of the visuals, which makes sense, you should still have references anyway. Artists will get their own references whether you've got them or not, but if you can supply references in the start, then it helps establish a really solid foundation for the visuals of the comic. It also means that you're more likely to be speaking the same visual language as the artist, which means that your communication with them will be much stronger. I can't stress how effective this can be in establishing a really strong relationship with your artist. So, to recap, if you include the page rate, sample scripts, a story synopsis, an optional sample page request, and some references, then you'll be well on your way to get the right kind of artist to respond to your advert. But there's still one more hill to climb. Who do you choose? I've seen a lot of comic book artist portfolios who are looking for gigs online, and it's amazing how many of them don't have sequential or comic art in their portfolio. One of the things that will really help you a lot is being able to distinguish between a comic book portfolio and an illustration portfolio. This is an illustration portfolio. Beautiful images, amazing skills, but not comics. And this is a comics portfolio. Great storytelling, brilliantly put together panels. Perhaps not as technical or eye-catching or beautiful as the illustration portfolio, but this comic portfolio will make your comic book much better than the illustration portfolio will. Now, that doesn't mean that you should ignore all illustration portfolios, and I'm not saying that illustrators can't do comics, so don't come at me. But if you get a lot of responses from illustrators for your advert, then keep their names in an Excel sheet or something, because you could use them to do your cover art or any art prints that you might want to sell alongside your comic. Just as long as the interior of the comic, as in the actual story, is done by a comic book artist or at the very least a storyboard artist. Illustration and comic books are similar, but they are two separate disciplines. Now, when you have a shortlist of 2 or 3 or however many potential candidates, you should ask a few questions. Pretty art is great, but a pretty great person is even better. So here are some questions that I would ask if I was in your position. How long did your last comic project take you? If speed is important to you, then it can help separate two artists who are otherwise the same, but maybe artist A took 6 months and artist B took 3 years. If speed is important, you probably go for artist A. Who else have you worked with, and do you have their email address or social media? This is all about references. If they've worked with someone else and they get a glowing review from that person, then that's a big green flag. Otherwise, it might be a mark against them and you might not want to work with them. Based on everything I've shared with you, how often can I expect completed pages from you? Again, this is about speed, but also about budgeting. Unless you pre-budget for the entire project, which I do recommend you do, it can be useful to know how often the pages are going to come to you, because then you can start building up your cash to commission the next set of pages. So for example, if the artist predicts that they'll do 6 pages every 2 months, then you know that you need to save 6 pages worth of money to then pay them for the next deposit. If during this process at any point you start to get a weird feeling, then trust your gut. They might be completely legitimate, but if I'm fronting up $2,000, then I need to be 100% sure that that money is going to the right person for the job. The aim of these questions and the point of the advert is to give you a sense of confidence and comfort in the artist that you choose. Collaborating with people online, because we're all strangers, is going to be scary no matter what. And ultimately, you need to be the one who's in control, because it's your story, it's your idea, and it's your money. Now, if the artist hasn't worked with anyone before, which makes question 2 redundant, then don't let that put you off. Just because they've never worked with anyone before doesn't mean they're not the right person for you. The only time you should be really concerned is if you contact someone that they have worked with and they give them a bad reference. Ultimately, choose the person who creates the art that you like and gives you positive vibes. If you're not sure where to post your advert, then I recommend the subreddit Comic Book Collabs. It's where I've gotten work in the past, and plenty of people are looking for work in that community pretty much all the time. I've written a template for an advert which is available in my newsletter, which is in the pinned comment of this video. If you want something to work from, then click the link and you'll get it for free. Let me know your experiences in the comments if you've tried to collaborate with other people online, and feel free to fill in any of the gaps you felt I left out in this comment, because it'll probably help other people out. And if you're unsure about what your budget's going to be for the entire comic project, then watch this video here.